Okay, so you're a pretty well-rounded individual, a college graduate, beauty queen, and at one point training to be a professional wrestler. I'd like to know who is the person behind the crown, behind the degrees, and what motivates you to go out there and accomplish all of these things?
I would have to say it's a mix of my mother, because believe it or not, she is, in my opinion, tough enough. And besides that, Stone Cold Steve Austin. I mean, after being especially on the show with him, I have a greater respect for him than I have had before, knowing his background and what he did when he was trying to be a wrestler and how well he convinced Vince McMahon that he shouldn't just be an average mechanic, that he is what, wrestling needs. And he changed, in my opinion, the industry. So, I like to break barriers. I like to break stereotypes, and in my opinion, he's him.
So we've seen you make appearances with WWE on Raw and the Tribute to the Troops special, but how did you come to the decision of actually wanting to compete in the ring?
Well, first, it was a battle to convince the Miss Universe organization, who are all about beauty and, elegance and girls who are probably afraid of spiders, to let me even host the wrestling show. They were actually not so, convinced that it's something that I should do. However, after I showed them the meaning of WWE and, why I should do it and why this would be a great opportunity to show the world that Miss USA is not what you think Miss America or all these other fake pageants are. We're real human beings who are tough. I think I convinced them. And you know what else helped me? The fact that Mr. Trump is Vince McMahon's friend and also a fan of wrestling. He, believe it or not, Mr. Trump loves wrestling. So, after I hosted, the idea of the show came up. And, I think that they were very afraid for me. They thought that I was going to break every piece of my body, but I'm happy to say that I proved everyone wrong.
You mentioned your mother earlier, and I wanted to know, what was the reaction from your family and friends when you told them you wanted to enter the world of professional wrestling?
They all thought I was crazy, but then again, I've known to be crazy. Crazy in the sense that nothing stops me. My father, of course, as dad, when I was younger, and I'd watch wrestling and I'd try to wrestle my boy cousins, my dad would freak out and go, this is not for you. I mean, he wouldn't even let me buy a pickup truck because he thought it was for boys. My mom, she's different. My mom, when I want to go on the show, my dad, I'm a grown woman. He's not going to say no, but my mom, she told me, she said, my daughter is tough. Go show the world. Go show them what you can do. But I remember the first time I called her when I was on the show, she started to cry on the phone just because she had missed me, and because they didn't hear from me for a while. They thought something might have happened. I tried to not tell my mom right away until I was completely under the doctor's hands that I had fractured 3 ribs. That's why I was off the show. But I didn't want to tell her until, she knew that I was okay, because she would have probably worried too much.
Okay, you mentioned watching wrestling when you were younger. Like, at what point did you become a wrestling fan, and, what drove you to, be a fan of the business?
I guess, growing up with boys, play fighting had a big deal to do with it. I can't remember when, I think it was China. China was someone who made me interested in watching into a hardcore fan. Just because I grew up in Queens. I also was born in Lebanon during the war. And I was always very short and quiet and very, nerdy. And I was picked on a lot, And I remember a day when 2 big boys who were, had failed 5th grade, and they were repeating it, and they were huge, and they threw me on the floor. They pushed me, and they tried to feed me snow. And I was so frustrated. I went home, and I saw China. I started to just learn different things, and I'm happy to say that 6th grade, I ended up beating up that boy. So, and that's how it started.
That's a pretty cool story. Now, who was your favorite wrestler growing up? You mentioned already China and Stone Cold. Did you have any others?
Josh Hart. I mean, of course, I'm pretty sure a lot of people might relate to that as well. I love the Warrior, believe it or not. Yeah, I mean, nowadays, if I want to pick a wrestler that I can not only like, but I can relate to, and even he said the same thing to me, would be The Miz, because Miz did Tough Enough, and he came from the real world, that show. So when he was on the show Tough Enough, of course, he was picked on and looked at as if he was going to fail. So I would definitely say that he's someone these days that I can relate to.
That's actually my favorite guy in WWE right now.
He's the man. He's so nice.
Yeah, and I saw on your Facebook profile, I think it was your brother, he had on a Miz shirt at a WWE event. That's pretty awesome, if I must say so myself.
Yeah, I got it for him when I first hosted. He had grown out of the last one, so I got it for him. And, yeah, he definitely loves that shirt.
Okay, now I want to delve into your time as a contestant on Tough Enough. Did you have any reservations about telling your fellow castmates that you were actually reigning Miss USA?
I didn't want to tell them. I was praying that none of them would know. I'm like, well, they're wrestling fans. I'm a wrestling fan. I hardly watch pageants. I'm pretty sure none of them have seen any. So the second that we got on the house, at first we weren't allowed to talk to each other until they turned on the camera. But everyone kept looking at me from top to bottom because I showed up in a long, shorts and high heels. Like my hair's all tied back. And they're like, who the heck is this chick, But then when the camera started rolling, the first thing they said to me, and it was on the first episode, was, aren't you that Miss USA girl? What the heck are you doing here? Right away. And everyone was like, I knew that was you. And then all of a sudden, the first fight happened between me and Michael, because he was telling me the only reason you're here is because you look good. You're not going to survive a day, and saying all kinds of bad things. So I think you guys remember saying a couple of bad words. Sorry about that. And and then I remember telling him, we'll see who lasts longest. And if I recall correctly, he's the one that got eliminated before I did. And I wasn't eliminated. I was injured. It was just never shown on the show, which wasn't cool, but it's all right.
Well, it's no need to apologize. I'm from Michigan, too, so I know.
Oh. You see, I remember when they were like, what are you doing here and all this stuff, and even the producers were all giving me all these special talks like, oh, you might not survive, blah, blah, blah. And then I go, what do you mean? I grew up, born in the war, grew up in Queens, and then moved to Detroit. I'm like, I got 2 guns and a crown. I'm staying.
Was there any point during the Tough Enough competition, maybe when Bill DeMott was on the other side of the ring charging towards you, where you thought, oh, crap, what the hell am I doing here?
No, but, man, are you good. That's exactly the time I would have to say. It was that time, and then in the ring with him when he called me 11 o'clock at night, where I was just not like, what the hell am I doing here, but more like, I'm going to die. Because I'll tell you one thing that you guys kind of like didn't see as well. Bill DeMott was pissed off that there was a beauty queen in this ring. Every single time, Eric, Andy, anyone would piss him off, he'd be like, I got an effing beauty queen here. Like anything that would happen, I would get the blame for it too. You know what I mean? It was so interesting. Even when I would beat all the guys in sprinting, or I'd beat half the guys and all the girls in running or any kind of thing, he'd look at me and he'd be like, you think you're special, huh? All right, we'll see you in the ring. And then I'll get like 7 body slams, and every girl will get 3. So I'm like, this guy just wants me to run out of here. And you know what? I wasn't. There were times where I didn't want to get up, where my body was just gone. But you could never tell. I would get up. I remember all these people that want me to fail, and I'll stand back up. And I'm proud of that.
So do those, comments from, I think you said Mike and Bill and all that stuff, did that drive you to try to win this competition and prove all the naysayers wrong?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. Definitely. I mean, it wasn't just them. It was everybody. I mean, there were people behind the cameras looking at me and like going, oh man, how long is she going to be here for? Today's probably her last day. Where it just drove me, even my organization, they were like, all right, maybe we'll see you in a week. So that drove me to, show them that, no, you're wrong. And as much as I couldn't walk sometimes, and in the morning my body was sore because I wasn't an independent wrestler like everyone else. My body was just getting used to this stuff. And I'll be honest, I wanted to train in wrestling, but it's very expensive. Even pageants are expensive. I sold my car to enter one of them. But what drove me is everybody. Every time my body would hurt or something, I'd remember in a split second everyone that wants that to happen, and that just make me get back up. You know what? I'll be honest. I saw Eric and Martin the other day, and my manager was talking to them, and they're like, what did you think of Rima on the show? And they're like, you kidding me? We were hoping we might get eliminated. She was definitely competition. They're like, she definitely proved herself, and that means a lot to me.
And what would you say would be like the hardest thing you ever had to do on Tough Enough?
Getting smushed by Bill DeMott.
Yeah, that didn't look fun.
No, absolutely not. But that wasn't the hardest. That was the most painful. The hardest is when Michelle, who, quote, unquote, supposedly has 15 years experience, yeah, right, didn't know how to do a B-roll. And one thing that I don't like about people that don't know something is I would sit by the ring and I'd watch. Trish even told me, she's like, I'm happy that you do that. That's how I learn. But she would act as if like, I know. So she didn't know how to do a B-roll, and they kept making me tell her, like, try to pick her up and roll her, and she wouldn't roll, and she kept falling on the same rib, and I heard a crack. But I didn't say anything. So Bill DeMott could tell that I was in pain, and he wanted to get it out of me. And when I asked Stone Cold for extra help, and he called me back in the ring at 11 o'clock at night, it's not really cool to go back in the ring after having a couple of shots with the guys at the house to numb the pain. He sat right on the spot that he knew I was in pain. And Michelle broke the top rib, and Bill DeMott ended up breaking the other two. So I had 3 fractured ribs from that. But that was the hardest time because I never cried like that, and I was crying from pain. And he told me, he said, listen, he said, there is a difference between being strong and being stupid, and right now you're being stupid. If you are injured, then you can never have a career in wrestling if you don't heal. He's like, so you have to go home and heal. And that's when they sent me home.
And I believe there was that the run that you guys had around like the mountains and stuff, and I believe you did quite well in that. What was that like to actually beat a lot of the some of the guys that looked more physically fit than you?
Well, I would be in the gym in the morning. I'm a very active person, but I admit I didn't know how to wrestle. But anytime we had any other challenge, whether the running, getting chased by dogs or anything like that, in my mind I'm going, yeah, baby, let's go. Now who's going to win this challenge, because I know everyone in the house, you might think they know how to wrestle, but you'd be surprised how many of them are not in shape. The only people that I got to say were in shape would have to be Luke and Jeremiah. I didn't see anyone else that was more in shape than they were. And they would work out and they'd get ready. Everyone else would make excuses like, oh, I didn't have time. Oh, I didn't know if I was going to make it. Oh, da-da-da. You should be working out either way, So, yeah, those made me excited. Anything besides, having to learn a new wrestling move, but fun. Well, it was fun to learn how to wrestle, too, but I'm just saying I knew that the challenges in the wrestling, I wasn't going to pass because they were going by how well you can wrestle, and, I was a new girl.
Now, you say you weren't really, big in the wrestling category. Would you like to ever, work for the WWE as kind of like a valet or a manager and kind of revive kind of a position that's not really seen in the WWE these days?
No, I would do that while training, but I'm not gonna be the wild girl for long though, and as long as I can be really up close where I can learn and work, so I can be around these, great people, because honestly, they're amazing people in WWE, I'm fine. Yeah, I'll work. I'll work as a, a host or a manager. But yeah, I guarantee you, you give me some time, and I'll be the one, slamming some girls. Maybe some guys.
Speaking of going from a valet to a wrestler, did you catch the part on the show where they were in the judging room and Trish, she actually showed like a parallel between your career and hers? Like, did that like mean anything to you, knowing that a 7-time women's champion was basically, putting her energy into keeping you in the competition?
Yes, of course. And she even told me that when I was leaving. That was the best compliment ever for me, for Trish Stratus to come tell me, you are the next me. I see you, through me. I mean, that's Trish Stratus, I mean, I know I was a girl, but I even had her poster on the back of my door, so it's like, wow, thank you. She took the game to a whole other limit. She took the girls from being just wrestlers to being the hottest girls that can wrestle, so she brought a whole new industry. So, of course, when she said that, and I was watching, I was like, wow, but when she said it to me in person on the show, I was just very taken away by that. I was very happy.
Are you training now and keeping up with the training to become a professional wrestler? And if not, do you see yourself picking it up somewhere down the line?
Right now, I recently, finished my reign with Miss USA because they didn't allow me to train during my reign. And I finished my reign. And since then, I got a couple rehabs on my ribs, made sure that I was fine, just like Stone Cold told me to do. And I've been, Bill DeMont introduced me because I'm still living in New York City to a training ring in Brooklyn. And so hopefully I can, do more with them now that I'm healthy. But I've been training on my own now. No news from WWE about me possibly doing anything with them. But hopefully, I don't quit, so we'll see what happens. But definitely I mean, I can't tell you how much I love it even more now,
Well, I have to say, even though you didn't win the competition, you definitely proved that you are tough enough.
Thank you. Or like I tell everyone in the house, we say tough enough.
So you have a lot of fans out there. Where can they see Rima Fakih next? Like, what's your next appearance?
Well, I have been bugging people with WWE to see if there's anything I can do. Right now, you can go on rimafakih.com and you can see all my updates, and definitely follow me on my loudmouth on Twitter at official Rima. And follow me because I am definitely, trying to do as much as I can to get to where I want to be. And, I mean, I never saw myself as a Miss USA, but it got me somewhere. And I'm hoping that I can do more to get me to the inside of that ring. I don't care, but I talk shit, and I gotta admit, I watch like Kelly, and even though I love the Bella Twins, I watch that and I just go, man, I could do better. You know what I mean? There are a lot of girls that went just from modeling into wrestling. It wasn't like they were wrestling fans, and I just kind of find that unfair.
So it's official right here on Pro Wrestling Talk Radio. Rima Fakih laid down the gauntlet. We'd like to thank you so much for joining us for this interview. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much, and I hope to talk to you really soon again.
Okay,
possibly when me and John Cena are getting married. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.